All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown, all three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today we're going to be doing my in-depth review of Stephen King's Dr. Sleep. There will be spoilers in this discussion. Just so you know, in case you haven't read the book yet, I have done a spoiler-free book review of this book on my channel. To find that review, all you must need to do is type in my last name, Durfee, enter you into your YouTube search bar, and then type in Dr. Sleep. Also type that into your YouTube search bar, and the video review will automatically appear upon your television screen or your computer screen or your phone. I don't care what you watch the internet on. Some sorcery, if you type those words into the YouTube search bar, there is some sorcery at work in the universe that will bring those, well, pretty much any book review up that I've done. If you just type in my last name and the name of the book. Okay, I've been a little bit hesitant to do a review of this book. So before I've done a review of the discussion. I've been a little hesitant to do the discussion for a couple of reasons. And so before we get to the discussion, just bear with me for a few minutes as I say why I'm a little hesitant, why I put this off for so long. So for those of you that have followed my channel for any length of time, you know that I had a recent medical scare where I almost died. Literally, I was on life support for a few days. If you want to watch, I made videos about that too, whilst I was in the hospital. If you want to watch those videos, type in my last name into the YouTube search bar and hospital. You can watch those videos. So I won't belabor the point of what happened to me. Just know that I went into the hospital as a much fatter, rounder-faced man and came out of the hospital 5 months later, 80 pounds smaller. And a lot less strong. And, anyway. The reason I bring this up is because when I first dialed 911, when I went from reading, I was just going to bed, reading a book like I normally do. Happy and content 1 second. The next second in the worst pain of my life. And I threw the book down that I was reading and I dialed 911 and the rest is history. Everything went ass over teapot from there on out and I was in the hospital for a long time. The book that I was reading at the time was Dr. Sleep by Stephen King. I tossed that book to the floor near my bed and there it sat untouched for the entire duration of my hospital stay. Even when I got home from the hospital 5 months later, I still just left it where it was, not daring to touch it, not daring to even look at it, because for some reason I thought that this book is cursed. It's cursed. It was the cause of my whole thing. And it was a PTSD, and I couldn't. And then I was like, well, I read half of it. I read half of the book. I was going to do an in-depth review, and then now I'm not, but maybe I should. So I ended up picking up the book again and finishing the half that I didn't finish. I will tell you, now that story's over, and the story of all my troubles is over, we'll get to the book here. I will tell you it is the sequel to The Shining. If you watched any of my video reviews of The Shining or any of my Stephen King book rankings, you know that The Shining is one of my least favorite Stephen King books. I liked this one a lot better the first couple times I read it. I even really liked the movie. Well, I really liked the movie of The Shining with Jack Nicholson. And I think that was the problem, is I saw that movie way before I read the book. And I loved the movie so much, and then the book was just, whatever. This one I like more than the book. This book I like more than The Shining. The movie of this I like probably as much as The Shining movie. This is just a dope movie, let's just say. And it's a pretty cool book. However, the first half of the book, before I tossed it on the floor and dialed 911 and was rushed to the hospital, I was really digging this. I was really taking a lot of notes, writing some fun things down that I was going to talk about. And I'll tell you, when I picked it up, after dreading to pick it up, I opened it up where I'd left off, and I struggled to finish it. I did, and I think it was just a mental block for me. And I kind of breezed through the final part of it a little bit just to get just to get it over with. And I don't know if that's fair for myself or for anybody, especially in a discussion of Dr. Sleep. Um, it is kind of an appropriate book, though, for me going into the hospital and nearly dying, when the themes of this book are people in rest homes and hospitals that are dying, and Dr. Sleep comes, visits them, or whatever. Anyway, let's get to some of the notes I took as I was reading this book. The backstory of The Shining is young Danny Torrance and his mom and dad go to, well, this is also the backstory to Dr. Sleep. So we're going to give a little bit of a brief description of The Shining just to set this book up. So, young Danny Torrance, a little kid, he goes with his parents to the Overlook Hotel in Colorado. His dad is a drunken maniac, turns into a drunken maniac at the hotel. Young Danny himself has a supernatural ability called The Shining, where he can, shine, see things, predict things, see ghosts, just weird stuff that happens, all right? And so that was kind of the basic plot of the first book and movie. Now, this book, Danny Torrance is older now. We open with, in The Shining, there's a hotel explosion. Jack Torrance, Danny's father, is, he tried to shut the boiler down. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happened there. And so the hotel kind of, it's kind of like went kerplowy in the first book. Now, Danny and his mother survived this incident, and along with a gentleman named Halloran, who has befriended, he used to work at the hotel, and he befriended Danny, and they could shine together. They could talk back and forth telepathically through space and time and all that stuff. And good relationship in the first book, a good relationship in this, because it carries on with that. Danny's as he's growing up, we get some backstory on him in this book, which I really appreciated. As he's growing up, he still sees ghosts, and particularly creepy ghosts. One that's very stand-out-ish. It's an old naked lady that he sees from room 217 of the Overlook Hotel, and that keeps replaying in his mind. Halloran, the older gentleman that can talk telepathically to Danny, as Danny's growing up, they keep in contact this way. Halloran tells Danny in this backstory throughout the story, it's somewhere in the book here, early on in the book, tells Danny a story of his own youth. Danny's youth is pretty weird, with his father doing weird stuff at the hotel and the hotel going kerplowy and all this kind of thing. Danny's got his own problems, but Mr. Halloran tells Danny this really kind of creepy story of his youth, and it's scary. And it's as scary as any Stephen King story can be, especially if someone's relating it to another person. This old man is relating it to this young man that's growing up, and he's talking to the young man about his own abusive father. Or it might have been his grandfather. Anyway, they which I liked hearing that, because it adds another element to the very, very bad parenting theme that ran through The Shining. That same theme carries over in this book with Mr. Halloran relaying that story from his youth. Because in reality, Danny and his mom, who's raising him since his father died, they're doing okay. I mean, his mom isn't like a bad parent, She's a single mom, and the single mom problems. but she's not a bad parent. But it's good to get Halloran's viewpoint of his own upbringing so we can continue on that theme of some parents just don't know how to parent. They bad, and they are with the mental stability of their children at pretty young ages, and it's the number one disease on the planet. And I'm not making that up. Bad parenting causes so much anxiety, causes so many problems with people. People take drugs to cope with the way they were raised. People get drunk to cope with it. People overeat. People do so many bad things. Get addicted to crimes. I mean, it's the number one plague on the planet is bad parents. And Stephen King knows this. He points it out. It's kind of the theme in a lot of his books, really. Which is one of the things that I like about Stephen King is he brings this up. I think it might be autobiographical. I don't know if his dad and him really had much of a relationship at all. And that affected him. Anyway, that's one of the themes that I found that ran through this book, as it did with The Shining. Okay, one of my favorite Stephen King characters of all time is introduced in this book, and that is Rose the Hat. She is our evil person that our good people, Danny, and someone else that I'm going to talk about in a minute, have to fight. They fight off. Rose the Hat, played excellently by, I think was it Rebecca Ferguson? Is that her name? I think her last name's Ferguson. I don't know what her first name is. I think it's Rebecca Ferguson. Does a great job in the movie of playing a very good visual with the top hat, the girl in the long black trench coat. And she's described in the book here just the same as she is in the movie. Just absolutely magnificent. And she is sort of the head of this cult, this crew of bad people called the True Knot. And it's full of just crazy, full of a lot of cool characters, like Snakebite Andy, who I think we meet pretty early on in the movie, at least. And the book, too. Silent, there's one named Silent. I can't remember the second name. Silent Sari or Scary or something like that. There's Apron Annie, there's Crow, and there's Barry the Chink. I didn't come up with that. Don't cancel me. That's a Stephen King. And a whole host of others that are in this True Knot cult that basically they kidnap people. Kids, a lot of the times they kidnap. And they use these people for their dark rituals, they suck the souls out of people, is I think kind of what's going on. And every time that Rose the Hat or any of those characters in her cult are on screen in the book and in the movie, they've got my attention full. I just think they're a delightful cast of creepy, murderous, eccentric people that I really enjoyed reading about. I don't know what that says about me. I don't know what that says about me that Stephen King is my favorite writer, or that I'm deathly afraid of this book, that it has a curse on me because it sent me to the hospital. It really did usher me into the oblivion that was hospital hell for a long time. And I thought at any moment Dr. Sleep was going to come and just be like, there's going to be a cat in my room. Oh, actually there was. It was a hallucination. I later found out that my girlfriend's cat would appear in my hotel, not my prison cell, but my hospital room. Felt like a prison cell. Would appear in my hospital room up on the ceiling above me. I'm laying in a hospital bed looking straight up, and there's this cat. My girlfriend's cat's got his claws. I think the cat's name is Bishop or Gambit. She's got two. I can't keep them straight. But one of them, the black one, the little black one, had its claws dug into the tiles up on the roof, and it would look straight down at me with its, and I thought it was Dr. Sleep. Once in a while, the cat's face would morph into the face of Kevin Costner, but I don't know why it did that. But anyway, I would tell the doctor, there's a cat clinging to the tiles up there. I think it's going to fall on me at any moment. And the doctors are like, dude, there's no cat up there. What are you talking about? And I'm like, no, the one with the Kevin Costner face. They're like, what are you talking about? This book scrambled my brain. in some way, and it still is. Just being near it, I can feel the energy coming from it. The energy that sent me to the hospital. Anyway, okay, enough about me. Enough about my troubles. Enough about that. Let's get back to the book. Let's talk about Abra, another great character. Now, Abra Stone is a young girl. At 5 months old, she's already starting to be weird. But she's got the shining, just like Danny Torrance does. And we spend some time getting to know her and her family, which is a functional family. It's not a dysfunctional family. Abra Stone is being raised by some good people, but she's got the shining. She's got a supernatural ability thing, and she can shine on and see things that are happening. And she sees into this true knot, the cult of the true knot. She sees Rose the Hat, of course, and Rose the Hat gets kind of a supernatural clairvoyant shine of her own and knows that this little girl is watching her. And Rose the Hat has, I'm going to kill that little girl. But because the little girl sees that they're kidnapping people. And one of the great scenes, the Stephen King great scenes, which they put in the movie also, was, it's in the book, but the Rose the Hat and her crew of soul-sucking characters, they kidnap a little boy out of the Little League game with his baseball mitt, and they scare the crap out of him. The kid is just freaking out, hoping that he doesn't get hurt or harmed by these people. Of course, they're creepy, and they promise him, no, we ain't gonna do nothing, but they do. They kill him. I mean, that's what makes the story, I think, a little bit level above The Shining, is that the bad people in this story are bad people. They kill children. And that just ramped up the tension in this story for me, more so than The Shining, where that guy was just crazy. That guy was just doing mental illness things and drunken mental illness things, and in the hotel. But pretty much during the story, everyone that the True Knot kidnaps, of course, we get a little snippet of who they are, and we get to see them die, and it's gruesome and gross and sad. And like with the little boy, I thought it was very sad. I was like, dang, I didn't expect it when I was reading the book. I mean, for the first time, this is the third time I've read it. And then the only other thing that I really want to discuss about this, because I kind of breezed through with my most recent reading. I will be honest, my mind wasn't quite into the book as it should with the second half. I do recall that it was vastly different than the movie. The movie did a good job of taking us back to the Overlook Hotel and having climactic scenes in the Overlook Hotel. And it was just really fun to go back and see all that and stuff like that. And you don't get much of that in this book, which I kind of think the movie improved on the story a little bit by doing that. But that's really all I got to say. The good characters overcome the evil characters in spectacular fashion, and it's really about all I got to say. I don't want to dwell on this book too much, because it really does, and I don't know why there's this psychology in maybe just me, that this book triggers me, not because it's a badly written book, because it's better than The Shining. It's one of the better Stephen King novels, I think, with one of my favorite villains, Rose the Hat. It just triggers me because it was the very thing I was reading when the pain struck and I ended up at the hospital. And so that's about all I'll say about it. Not much of a discussion compared to my other discussions, which were a lot more detailed. But it's what I'm going to leave here on the internet forever. So there's that. This will be here for eternity, or at least until the internet. I don't know. What is going to happen in the future? Will YouTube be around 1,000 years from now? Well, people, let me know in the comments if you are watching this 1,000 years from now. Let me know. I'm interested to know if you are. Thank you very much.